Good afternoon. Today is Monday, October 13th. It's 3 p.m., 3:02 p.m., and this is the Moscow City Council Administrative Committee. And with me we have City Council members Walter Steed and John Weber, and my name is Tom Lamar as the chair. The first item on the agenda is approval of the August 25th minutes. It's been a while since we've met because we've been meeting as Public Works.
I would move that we approve the minutes of August 25, 2014.
And I will concur with you.
And I wasn't there, and
You
y'all
weren't
sure
there?
have had a lot of time off.
We've had a lot of time off. And now joining us is Gary Riedner, our city supervisor. The second item on the agenda, and I think the only item of decision that we have today, is the proposed amendment of Title IV, Chapter 6, to allow an exception to lot street frontage requirements by existing lots of record with Mike Ray.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Mike.
So just basically giving a report today on an upcoming legislative amendment which is scheduled for public hearing before council next Monday, which is October 20th. And so this particular amendment is to basically amend city code to allow an exception to lot street frontage requirements, and this is for existing lots of record within the city. And so just to give you a little bit of background, currently contained within the zoning code, there are two provisions that basically pertain to minimum lot street frontage requirements, and these were established in 1991 with that code amendment or new zoning code adoption. And basically you have two sections. 463A basically states that every lot shall abut a public street right-of-way other than an alley for a minimum distance of 40 feet. You also have other standards contained within that paragraph within that section that provide standards for different types of lots, such as twin homes, flagpole, townhouse lots, cul-de-sacs, lots like those. You also have Section B under 463, which basically states that every building hereafter erected or moved shall be on a lot abutting a public street. All such structures shall be so located as to provide safe and convenient access for servicing, fire protection, and required off-street parking. Now, staff, as
Mike, if I may ask a clarification.
Sure.
463A, the parenthetical other than on an alley, is in the code. That's not being put in at this point.
That's not being put in at this point, and that's the way it currently is written.
In the code. Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
Yep. So staff has gone through and identified approximately 36 lots within the city that abut a public right-of-way of 25 feet or less in width. And so these are lots that currently exist. They've previously been recognized as legal building lots when they were platted and allowed construction. They currently have structures constructed upon them except for two of those 36, which are currently undeveloped. And so these lots are considered to be non-conforming, which means they may not be able to be developed or redeveloped should the existing structures be destroyed by more than 70% of their replacement value at the time of destruction. That's basically what our non-conforming law, the record section, states as far as those structures being removed or destroyed. And so with any loss of all economic value of the property, staff starts to get concerned with more of a regulatory takings upon those properties if there's no more economic value. And so staff has prepared an amendment basically to address this issue, and that's what brings us to the amendment that's being proposed before council next week. And so I just wanted to provide a couple of examples of this issue within town. This is Hidden Lane. On the west-hand side here you have Logan Street, and this is Maybell Street, just to get your bearings. Hidden Lane is currently platted as a 16-foot right-of-way width, and within that 16 feet there's 11 foot of developed access, which is gravel currently. You have basically one lot that's accessed across another, over here. But these four lots are all adjacent to, or at least three of them are adjacent to that alley, right-of-way width, which is currently non-compliant with our current regulations. And so brings us to another instance, which is Deacon Alley Extension, basically. And so this is actually a private drive, and it's off of, this is Taylor Avenue here, running east-west. You have Louder, which heads south and then curves to the east there. And so you have the basically a 12 to 14 foot developed width, and that's the only access that these particular parcels there outlined in magenta have access to. So you have 3 of them. One of them here is a duplex. I also like to point out, in the previously hidden lane, these 3 properties here are all duplexes. So 1, 2, 3, and then you have a single family parcel here to the east, which is accessed across that other parcel. And so staff's proposed amendment to address this issue, basically keeping it within the same section 6-3 of our zoning code, basically stating under that section, subsection A, except as provided below, every lot shall abut a public street right-of-way other than an alley for a minimum distance of 40 feet. And basically we have the same language which is contained within that section now. We've just broken it out into numbering so it's a little more user-friendly, and easier to read when navigating the code. And we've also added this section here at the end, basically inserting subsection 4, basically stating that legal lots of record that have been approved by the City Council prior to the adoption of this zoning code and which do not abut a public street right-of-way shall be accepted from this requirement where a sufficient permanent legal access is available. And that's via public right-of-way, private access easement, or other legal means. And that's to provide safe and convenient access for servicing, fire protection, and required off-street parking. And basically what we've done is eliminated that subsection B just because of the redundancy and inserted, a portion of that language at the end of section 4 under subsection A.
John?
So, we're dealing at this point with 36 slots total.
Correct.
And if perchance you missed one, would that fall under this particular, or would we need to go through this process again if somewhere in the city, while you were looking, you missed 1 or 2?
That would still be encompassed under this proposed amendment.
Okay.
So even if we missed one, it would still be covered.
Walter?
Yeah, John, the number 4 doesn't state 36 lots, it just says legal lots.
Yeah.
But my question, Mike, is that have been approved by the City Council prior, do we know for a fact the 36 you've identified were approved by the City Council, or did some of them just happen?
Well, the majority of them show up.
I wonder if this language is a little too tight. I understand what you're trying to do, but I wonder if saying approved by the City Council might not apply to pick a lot that somehow got built without City Council action. Gary, maybe?
It's Rod here.
Rod Hall.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple ways that you could interpret that. Adoption of this zoning code could refer to this amendment, but if it was built without adoption by the City Council, then it wouldn't be covered by it.
The only way we would have platted lots is by action of the
Okay.
City Council, isn't it?
If it's a platted lot, then it's somewhere somebody's accepted it.
Are they all platted?
Well,
I think.
I'm just
within
wondering if there's
if there is a lot that-
renegade out there somewhere that we're not trying to exclude. I think we want to include it in the proposal, just not to make the language such that it doesn't get included, I guess.
Well, if I think if something like that happened, then we could address it. If that was an issue, we'd figure out how to deal with it.
Okay.
Here, I think that this is probably a safe way to go, to say that the city has approved it. What we're trying to say, I think, in this amendment is that the city put in some standards that basically said the lots that had been approved, you can't do what you would have been able to do prior to 1991. I think this is a fairness issue.
And we find around the city, you get people who built garages on public right-of-way and alleys and those sorts of things. We try to work with them as much as we can, but there are occasions where they have to be taken off. So if it hasn't been approved by City Council, then either through a lot division, a plat, or something, then council would have to deal with it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
My question is along the lines of where sufficient permanent legal access is available. And you have within that private access easement, which makes sense, but the example that you showed on Hidden Lane, is that last lot a legal easement across a piece of private property, or is that just
I would assume they have a private access easement across that property for the benefit of the landlocked parcel.
Is it okay for us to assume that, or
Well,
do we?
and if they didn't, then they would legally have the right if they've been using it for more than 20 years. they're
So
gonna
as
have-
long as, okay.
Yeah.
they're
So that's
gonna-
considered-
They're going to have developed a right.
That's considered, what you say here, private access easement.
Correct.
Is what you're.
And again, that's not the city's, if they have that property, they've developed it, they have that access easement, they would have to show evidence of having that. If they're doing it by prescription, which is what Rod's talking about, if they've used it for X amount of years, then they can continue to use it. They would have to obtain that. And they might have to go buy an easement from somebody
Right.
if they don't have that access.
Well, I guess the theme of the questions of all three of us is, what about those weird
Sure.
things that just crop up? And as long as they're covered in the language that you've got here, then you're feeling comfortable about
Yeah.
that.
Rod, as long as you're up here, and then you wrote in this memorandum, a lawsuit, I realize anybody can sue for anything at any time, and they do, but who would sue?
Well, somebody who has a legal lot of record, well, all of a sudden can no longer build on that, cannot get their economic use out of that lot. They may have a takings claim because of the action of what the government has done. So if they had a right to build on this lot, then all of a sudden the city has enacted ordinance that said your lot can no longer build because you don't meet these certain standards. They might have a cause of action.
Oh, okay,
against the
so I
government.
obviously read this wrong in that what we are doing will prevent that from happening.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do.
Any more questions?
I'm good.
Okay, well, I guess we will hear all this again on October 20th at the public hearing.
Yeah, and I just wanted to state that, Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing, and that was on September 10th. At the conclusion of that hearing, basically the commission tabled the matter until their September 24th meeting, which at that time they unanimously recommended approval of the proposed amendment to City Council. And once again, this will be coming before you on October 20th, which is next Monday. So.
And that's why they have the number 36 lots, is because they were asked how many lots would this affect. And so they did their research, and that's where they came up with that number.
I don't even want to ask how you found them.
Good software.
Due diligence.
Politicians doing that. Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a report. It's the Brownfields Coalition Assessment Grant Project. Yep, that's right. We don't conduct the public hearing. The public hearing is being conducted on
Yes.
October 20th. Yeah. Brownfields Coalition Assessment Grant Project Update with Elisa Anderson and Kyle Steele. Kyle,
And Kyle, I
not here.
apologize, he had an appointment that he could not reschedule, and we set this time, so I'm here on his behalf, and Gary is also up to date on this project. So we hadn't reported to you the recent happenings of our assessment grant, which was originally awarded to us in September, and I have a typo already, I see that. Excuse me. September 2010. And we recently had to request a one-year extension because of the work that we're continuing to do on the 6th and Jackson property. And, oh, jeez. Excuse me?
It should be
Yeah.
15. There you go.
Typos, sorry, I apologize. So we received a one-year extension to September 30th, 2015. To date, out of the $475,000, we've expended $363,986.52. Our current available balance is $110,013.48. We have executed an additional task order with Graphics for the work on the 6th and Jackson property, and the remaining balance on that task order is $25,432.86. So available balance for additional assessments is $84,580.62. And we're currently working with IDEQ and Terra Graphics. There's some other projects going on in town or opportunities that we're hoping to be able to work with over the next year to use up the remaining balance of that money.
Good.
Just to give you an update of past activities, we completed assessment work on 1102 South Main Street, which was the Sharp property, and that has been completed. The Fountain property on East Palouse River Drive, which is a site that we've looked at for the Southwest Industrial Business Park, and then the old Dumas property, where they're still doing the deconstruction of the building there, has been completed, and then the Dumas Spur property, which is now where a park is going in on Asbury and Lilly, and 207 North Main Street, which is now where Cannon Press is. And so those are the dollar amounts that were expended through the assessment work and the preparatory work that has to happen before they can do the assessments and all of the testing. So to date, just on assessments, we have spent $332,834.37. And as I said, we still have assessment work in progress on the 6th and Jackson property. Also, to update you with what's happened as far as the cleanup grant, the Muscovine Renewal Agency executed a contract with DEQ for a cleanup, or with EPA for a cleanup grant in August of 2013, and that was for $115,317. Since that time, and earlier this year, and Jeff Jones had reported to you, the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality came to us and said that they wanted to become involved with the project and felt that there maybe were some additional testing that they would like to see done on the property. And so the URA went ahead and entered into their voluntary cleanup program and executed a voluntary remediation agreement. Right now, the work that we're doing on the 6th and Jackson property is still under the assessment grant, and if you there's a Gantt chart that was prepared by Terra Graphics. It's attached to this. We won't start the cleanup activities until next spring. We'll probably do the bidding early spring of the work to do the construction cleanup, but everything we're doing on this Gantt chart, and right now we're at the process of the QAP, the Quality Assurance Plan, is in draft form and being reviewed right now. Then we'll continue on with the other activities. At this point, we've been asked to install some additional wells on the property, 2 to 3 wells, to do additional testing. And with that data received from those tests, we should be able to finalize the work plan to go ahead and move forward with what we need to do for cleanup. It's a long process, though. It takes a lot of very technical data testing. And so the quality assurance plan is being reviewed at IDEQ and EPA right now. And once we have their approval on that, and sometimes that can take 30 to 60 days to get the EPA signature on that document, we'll be moving forward with redrafting the ABCA, which is basically the alternatives of brownfield cleanup assessments, and so we'll move forward with that. And there's 30-day public comment period after you've completed your draft ABCA, and at that point in time we'll be able to go ahead and put spec documents together to bid out the cleanup work. So
That's great.
that's where we are.
So is the only property that the assessments identified as needing cleanup work the 6th and Jackson piece?
Yes.
So all of the others, South Main, Fountain, Dumas Spur, North Main, the assessments were done, the data was gathered, and life went on?
It depends the use of the property. There may be
Correct.
some uses that take a
Some
certain
may have
level
said
of
they
cleanup.
cannot use this for a
Sure.
whatever, but, okay. But the 6th and Jackson property said you have to,
Whatever you do.
the owner needs to do some work on it, and the owner got an additional grant of $115,000 to work on cleaning it up.
And part of that is because the URA, being a public entity, has and bought the property, doesn't have a history with the property. It's deemed to be a public good to clean it up.
If I may, Alyssa, you've got $84,580 left in the assessment grant. Is the intent to keep that open as long as they will let you to find additional properties to assess, or is it going to conclude at the end of September 2015?
Yeah, we'd like to use the money up before then and put it to use here, either somewhere in the city or there.
But you don't have any prospects right now?
We do have a couple, but we're not at a point to where we can say that they're eligible properties. So we'll do our best to,
And
expend
we'll
those
continue to
additional
make
funds.
inquiry, and if a property owner is motivated, we'll certainly do what we can so they can assess their properties.
Thanks, Elisa. It would be good if we could, find those last few property owners to do it. It's beneficial for them too, so.
There's a couple of things going on that we'll see. Hopefully it will
Great.
come through.
Well, thanks
So,
for your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jen Piffner is giving the next report. It's the iCount report.
Good
Not even
afternoon.
bringing any paper along.
No paper. I have a very easy job today. I'm here to reintroduce you to Keegan Caldwell. He is our returning sustainability advocate or coordinator, as we're now calling him, from AmeriCorps. They don't allow the term intern, so we've adjusted that a bit. But Keegan's working with us as an AmeriCorps volunteer and was the one who coordinated the recent iCount project, so I'll let him provide that report.
So we had iCount last week on Thursday to keep the same kind of date and time of year as we did the previous years. What we were trying to do is recreate similar data. So when we go to compare reports, we have that constant in our reports.
Excuse me, if somebody just tuned in and doesn't have a clue what iCount is, you might want to tell us.
So iCount is basically the city's an event the city puts on every year to collect demographics on non-motorized transportation. So the idea is that we have individuals across the city at various corners of interest, intersections of interest, that are taking notes on pedestrian activity, both walking, biking, and others like rollerbladers or skateboarders or things like that, going to and from. So the idea is that the count's done in the morning and the afternoon to catch people from going to work or going to school or coming from work or from school at the end of the day. The idea would be that we can take this information later on and utilize it for a plethora of different things, from civil activities to grant writing and things like that. So this is the fourth year we've done the event. This year the participation number was down from last year. We had less volunteers than we did the year before, but the event went over really smoothly in comparison to last year, and there were more updates made to the presentations and to the organization of the event overall. So I think in years to come, the event will be able to be carried out easier. So that was definitely a step in the right direction for the program. We still haven't collected all the packets back from the volunteers, so we're waiting on that, and I'll be getting together with our connection at the University of Idaho to synthesize the data, Mike Lowry, later this week. Other than that, the event went over really well. We got some photos and some good information. So Mike did also provide me with previous reports. So we now have reports from 2011, 12, and 13 available in the hard copies and PDFs, and hopefully we'll be making those available online in the near future as well.
That's great. And that was the day after Bike to Walk. Bike
I
to
walk
work.
day,
It
yeah.
was
Bike to school, walk
day.
to school.
Walk to school day, bike and walk to school day. Yep. Gary.
Jen, will this report be made available to the Transportation Commission as well?
We do provide those reports to the Transportation Commission, and now that we have the PDFs, we've had a great partnership with the University of Idaho, but they've assisted us kind of as they could with classes in developing those reports. So now that we have all of those annual reports prepared, we'll put them on the website in the next couple of days and provide those to the Transportation Commission as well. Previous data, and not so much the analysis, but the data was provided to the consultants working on the multimodal transportation plan from previous counts as well. So it's another way that that data has been used in the past. So,
Great.
Thanks. No, I'm good.
I'm good.
All right,
you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Now I know what the guy in the lawn chair was doing, though. Last week.
Yeah. DJ Scallern is here to talk about the 33rd Street Gallery exhibit. That's a lot of numbers on a row. 33rd. And to make sure Walter's happy, you're going to explain 30, right? Okay, thanks. Because you might ask.
I might ask. I think it's incumbent that we know what we're talking
That's
about.
right, exactly.
I have my glasses, I can help you. I think.
Maybe.
Have you ever bought?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, one year I went crazy.
Oh, okay.
I did a whole bunch of Christmas presents.
I bought one, and that's, I think, one of the better things we do.
Oh, it's really fun. It's really fun. Have you bought any?
Have a what?
Have you purchased any of those 30 pieces?
No, I don't have enough walls to put any more art
No,
on.
no. It's for presents for your grandchildren or your kids. They're good gifts. Don Palmer has the record, I think, of city people buying things at 30.
Yep. $30 a crack.
$30 a crack.
Well,
But that's what you do. You buy them for presents.
I don't have any
That's the
nieces
only
or nephews that are worth $30.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I got a couple of sisters.
Yeah, you can buy
They
one
take
for the
pretty good
sister.
care of me. They're worth
Yeah,
30.
yeah, buy one for your sister.
Good afternoon. I'm here to
Yes.
talk about the 30-30-30, which is where we have 30 artists in the gallery who do 30 works, and they all do it in 30 days, and all those works are for sale for $30.
So it should be 30.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound as
Third
nice.
Street.
Yes. We don't want to make it too much of a tongue twister. So
And do they have a specified size, or each year that size can change? Or are they all
the first
postcard
year
size?
we did it was 5 inches by 7 inches on canvas panels. The second year we did 6 inches by 6 inches, and we're going to repeat the 6 inches by 6
so it'll be
inches.
square this time.
It's going to be squares.
Okay.
Mhm. And if
Thanks.
you take, anytime, if you take 30 artists times 30 works, that is 900. So here is an example of how we hung the exhibit last year, and you can see how we crammed 900 works into our gallery. And then you can see a picture of also our one-day sale. And I've heard it described as a mad dash grab for art.
That's what it is.
Because you let them look ahead of time and then put up a starting gate and y'all go.
Basically.
Yeah, and Donna Woolston's usually got her finger on like 3 or 4 at the same time.
So these are our 30 participating artists for this year. I just contacted the last of them this afternoon, and they are all excited to participate. They get to pick up their canvases next Monday on the 20th and begin the painting process and the creation process. This year we instigated a jury, so anyone who wanted to could apply, and then representatives from the Moscow Arts Commission actually narrowed that down to 30, and we had a total of 42 applicants.
Cool.
So I did not envy them in having to narrow that
So
down.
they had to say no to some people.
They had to say no to 12
Okay.
people. And then important dates, we have an artist reception. We're going to do this new this year. We're going to do that December 3rd, 5 to 7, and we're going to have the works organized by artist. So each board will be an artist with the works grouped, and then we're going to reincorporate, so everything will be mixed up for the sneak peeks on December 4th and December 5th. And those dates and times are there. And then on December 5th in the evening from 4:05 to 7 p.m., we have our one-day sale where people can come. They take the work off the wall, they proceed to the cash register or the checkout stand, and they pay for their works and they take it that evening. Any questions?
Of last year's 900, how many sold?
484, I believe.
And I didn't even tell you I was going to ask that, did I?
It's just one of those numbers you remember.
It's how my brain works.
That's how it works.
I think this is a really cool thing, and I've participated as a patron, $30 patron, which is pretty much the way to go. And I think it's one of the things we do here that makes this pretty good place to live. So,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be nice.
Thank you.
Christmas presents or other kinds of holiday presents. Well, thanks, DJ. So the next report is a creative placemaking workshop report by Kathleen Burns. More art.
Hit escape.
End show. We need a.
You notice
We need a
none of
training.
the council members are racing up there to help.
Yeah, I don't know how to use that thing.
That thing,
I suppose we need a
just tell us, Kathleen.
computer projector training.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So I put together a really brief PowerPoint for you. We had Karen Bubb up from Boise, and she's she works for Arts and History for the City of Boise, and her main job with the City of Boise is public art. She also serves on the PAN, which is a public art network with American for the Arts. And so she's pretty much our Idaho representative. So we had a workshop last Monday, a creative placemaking workshop. Walter was there, which was good for a while. And
then later it wasn't good or something?
no, it was really good. So
I picked up on that too. Good for a while.
So we just kind of looked at art and placemaking and concentrated on public art. So this was the day. This is what happened all in one day, which was quite a bit. We had our workshop in the afternoon, and then we went for dinner and conversation at Myelina. And then afterwards, we went to the Kenworthy, and we showed a couple short movies on sense of place. And then we had a panel of some local folks to talk about placemaking in their communities. And we had Brian McCormick from the Nez Perce Tribe. We had Nels Reese, Lori Higgins, and I forget the woman's name from WSU from Landscape Architecture. So I apologize for that. So in this room, we had 40-plus participants that worked on different idea sharing and brainstorming about special Moscow places. And as you can see from the pages, we kept track of ideas and places that were important to people, whether it was the 1912 building, the co-op, the library, rec center, different parks. And then we practiced an exercise, which was a team practice on point of view, and went through more idea sharing. And then we pretty much went through what creative placemaking means and what it's about. And Karen showed us a couple slides, quite a bit. I deleted quite a few because it's a large document. But engaging public, private, nonprofit, and community sectors in shaping the physical and social character of a place through design, arts, and cultural activities. And builds community by making creative placemaking projects, economic development, preserves and nurtures indigenous creativity in all communities, brings people together to share their talents, their differences, and their commonalities. Reclaims public spaces. So a good example of this is the farmers market now on Main Street, and reclaiming some of our public space downtown. Wayfinding is another project, and I think Les is going to talk about that in Public Works. And then we just went through our entryway beautification project with community development, and we talked about gateways into Moscow and doing some public art features on entrances into Moscow. So it's just talking about public space and adding beauty to the infrastructure, doing different projects. Here's a good example of water towers, and we have silos. So does that mean we could do art on our silos? It just makes you think outside the box. This is a great way to look at crosswalks in streets and what they've done in different cities. So this was a couple examples of plazas we talked about. A lot of people wanted to talk about Friendship Square, seating, fountains, flower beds, mosaics and murals integrated into a city, and the importance of plazas, planters. So we're going to use some of this work that we did to put into 2 grant applications that Elisa and I are working on. There's Art Place America, which is November 3rd, and then the Our Town grant, which is December 15th. So with that, any questions?
Thank you.
Well, Kathleen, while you're here, and Gary, the railing along the bridge at Steiner and Troy Highway was damaged by a vehicle recently. It has not been repaired by ITD. I don't know what they plan to do or when they plan to do it. You had talked about some decorative work on the bridge railing down at
Yep.
Chinese Village.
Yep.
I don't know if this is an opportunity or if you get grant money you could do something, but you may want to take a look at it.
Take some photos.
Well, you can take a photo of what the railing looks like now, which is a pretty bent-up piece of metal, but
Okay.
it's going to have to be replaced or repaired in some fashion. I don't know if adding some art to it would be something to consider or not.
Yeah, they damaged
idea.
probably 40% of it or 30% of it or something like that,
Yeah.
but the whole, you might want to do
It
the whole
wasn't.
thing.
It wasn't a beautiful piece of work in the first
Uh-uh.
place. It's now
Pretty rough.
And now it looks,
kind of like modern art now.
now it's dangerous.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't
Thanks for the idea.
designed to be beautiful. It was designed to keep people from falling into.
I think it'd keep people. Apparently, it wouldn't stop a car.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Anything else?
It looks neat. I was enjoying just watching your pictures and
Oh,
going
there's
off.
3 times the amount of pictures.
Yeah, I bet.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thanks for
You're
doing that.
welcome. Thank you.
iCrimp update with Gary, so it's art and law today.
Okay. Well, insurance, actually, and I'm just passing around the cover letter that we received from American Insurance. Sean Sullivan's our agent of record, indicating that our iCrimp premium was due. There's a 2.685% increase from last year. Total premium about $225,000 in total. So that increase is a little bit ahead of the inflationary rate. It's also based on experience. This is a pooled risk management fund, so not technically an insurance company, but functions as an insurance company in a lot of ways. The letter kind of outlines the different pieces. I have the policy here and the schedule of changes from last year's policy. One of the things that we do and report on in the past that we do have a separate terrorism rider that would cost us $78,000 per year, or we waive it typically, and we waived it again this year. We will have $50 million of terrorist coverage over the entire state for entities that are insured through iCrimp. So we would share that. It's the risk, if something happens, is very large. However, the probability of something hoping is very low. So that was the decision that was made again this year, as according to our policy that we've done in the past.
Did we make that decision as a council, or was that an administrative decision?
We've done it administratively in the
Okay.
past.
Okay.
And we've continued to do that. Mainly, if the premium were a little more in line, it would help a lot. But for essentially $80,000, it's a pretty simple call to make.
Yeah, it's like, so that $80,000 would cover terrorism incidents in Moscow above and beyond the $50 million of coverage that exists within
I
the
don't
state of
believe you
Idaho?
participate in the 50 million at that point.
Oh, okay, so you're
You have separate
excluding
coverage.
yourself.
And it
your-
covers the value of your property, so you'd have the same coverage as you would. Terrorism typically is excluded except through this $50 million that is shared across the state,
Terrorism by ICRIMP is pretty tightly defined.
as in most insurance policies,
And
yes.
you're talking about city properties.
Yes.
You're not talking about University of Idaho.
Exactly.
Moscow School District, Avista substations,
You bet.
et cetera.
Yeah, this is merely for our own properties.
Great, thanks.
Okay. And then, of course, if you look at the back page or flip it over, it talks about the importance of us reporting our new acquisitions and our deductibles and that sort of thing. We've been it's good coverage. ICRIMP, besides providing us with the actual casualty coverage, and liability coverage, they also provide us with quite a few training sessions if we want those. Jim McNall, for instance, will come up here and give us staff training on harassment, things like that. So anyway, it's a good policy, and it's renewed for another year, so just wanted to keep you abreast of that.
Gary, I don't see, in the last paragraph on the American Insurance, this one, this
Yes.
page?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it includes it, but it doesn't, in the list of things it covers, doesn't mention fire.
Yes, it is covered.
And I'm sure it is, but
Yeah.
they didn't say they weren't listing everything.
Yeah.
Have we got all of our vehicles listed?
Yes.
Good.
We did have a situation in the last year that one was not listed. But as you read in the letter, if something is not listed, then it's covered for 50% of the value. So we're pretty lucky about that. And Dawn and Sue and the finance department works pretty hard at keeping that list updated.
There were a few of us that attended that risk management training on human resources. Well, I didn't do the Prima one recently, but the one before that was in this room here.
Oh, yeah.
We did the training on human resources and other.
Well, isn't
All right.
John, what the insurance company does their best at is to extract as much as they can in premium and then limit their exposure to the absolute maximum so that regardless of what happens, we give them a premium, and if something happens, they don't give us anything back.
It's all about risk management. I will tell you that ICRIMP's been good to deal with. We've had relatively few disputes over the years. In other words, we thought something was covered and maybe they thought it was not. But overall, it's been a really good relationship. And ICRIMP, because it doesn't turn a profit, doesn't have shareholders to pay, it's not a private entity, can give the best possible price. And with the coverage for the price, it's the only way to go, in my opinion. Yeah, Steph just wanted me to mention that we are eligible for a 5% discount per year based upon our employees and council affiliated with the city going online and taking what amounts to about a 20 to 25 minute training, and that lops 5% off the top of the premium, which amounts to about $12,000. So that's a significant amount of money.
Chunk. That's good.
Okay.
All right. That's the last thing. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you
Public
very much.
Works, Finance.